As an audience, you're getting to be very good at that. I appreciate that. Hey, we need to say thank you to our friend Petey, who is not only our DJ tonight, but has also been feeding some of us with fine fare from Paisan's Pizza. Thank you, Petey. This is the Chicago Vintage Show, and we're right here at the Out of Space in Berwyn. They've got music here all the time, so come by and enjoy it here. I think that covers everything. I've got a guest here on the program, and I've been looking forward to talking to this young man. What can I tell you? He's extremely talented. He's on the rise, and he's got way better head of hair than he deserves to have. Would you please say hello to Mr. Jonathan Lyons? Good to see you, boss. Have a seat. Have a seat. Have a seat. Oh, first of all, I know we can't get a shot of this, but his shoes are sparkly. Well, we could if I
maybe.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, they're real pretty.
That is a pair of kicks.
Yeah, I sacrificed my masculinity a long time ago.
Well, now let's. I'm going to say you're. To me, you're a young man. You're in your 20s, I'm guessing.
I am. I'm a mere 22-year-old.
I got underpants older than you, brother. And my underpants are not near as talented as you are, so that's a good thing. So, first of all, tell me, I think you and I talked about this briefly. Tell me about how your family got you into music.
Sure. Well, my dad was always in a rock band in the 80s, a cover band called Montage, turned into a wedding band. So from an early age, I was witnessing, practices with a live band in my basement. And my mom was always into musical theater. She was always typically had the lead roles, and she's real something when it comes to harmonies. And my dad actually started. Well, I started singing from. According to my parents, pretty much out of the womb. I was humming. Started out as humming, and then by 3 years old, I had my own personal rendition of the ABCs. It went something like A, B, C, D, U, R, E, and et cetera.
Et cetera. That's close enough for that age.
Yeah, but my dad actually, for my aunt's wedding, she was kind of an Elvis fanatic, and she didn't have much of a budget, so she had my dad go ahead.
I like the way you admit that. Well, times are tight, and there's your entree into show business.
It is what it is. But he went ahead and rented a little Elvis get-up, just cheap little thing, cheap little wig, kind of a gag, but went over extremely well, and it kind of took off for him and turned into a little side job. He started doing Elvis. And later on, when my voice dropped, he had me... join him in as Johnny Cash, which was kind of a...
Really?
Yeah, that's how it started out. Started out for frontman anyway. I actually started out in the drums.
I was going to say.
Yeah, but...
we need to point out something that I know from looking at your internet presence. Number one, you're a musician first.
Yeah.
Playing drums, playing a guitar. I know that you write your own music.
I do.
So the tribute artist thing is a big part, but you got your own thing going as well.
Yeah, I got my own band called Johnny Lyons and the Pride.
Nice.
Got a little pun there. But,
but so you started out doing Johnny Cash with your dad's act.
Yeah, he joined me in. We had he calls it the What If concert, as if when Johnny Cash and Elvis, they toured together but they never played together, and so we. Kind of put that on, and I stick around. He starts off the show as the typical Elvis, theme. He comes out and does CC Rider and everything, and then stops for a second and invites out the Man in Black, and I do, the typical, hello, I'm Johnny Cash.
Exactly.
Down, I do my thing, and then I stick around and harmonize, and we have good times.
Well, now let me ask you this: as a 22-year-old kid, when you were first introduced to the music of Elvis and Johnny Cash and Jerry Lee and those guys, what was your initial reaction, or did it hit for you immediately that you were like, that's it?
There was definitely a time where it clicked. I mean, I had heard it before when I was, really small, and it was my dad's, my parents' music, but I didn't really have my own music until I kind of had this click.
Uh-huh.
And when it did, it was powerful, because the stuff I was hearing today just never connected with it. I liked the style, obviously.
Oh, you just roll out of bed looking like this, don't you?
Absolutely, of course I do. But
yeah, me too.
Yeah, and just the presence and the authenticity of the musicians and everything, and it just hit home. Made me want to get up and dance. So that's kind of what did it for me.
So then I assume that, like, your friends your own age, what was their take on this whole deal when they saw this happen to you?
Yeah, I was in a kind of a grunge band for a while as a drummer, and it was called Blackout, then it was called the Smoking Revolvers, and then it was called Plume. Went through this whole thing,
well,
but
you learn, you grow, you change the name of your
right.
band.
But yeah, when they always kind of gave me a hard time for it, thought it was a little cheesy, being able to profit off of somebody else's success. But the way I looked at it, it was kind of like we was talking a little earlier. We said it was kind of like a shortcut to get you through the door. Gives you a memorable name, something that people know. They're like, yeah, come on in. We know we can draw Elvis fans. We know we can draw Johnny Cash fans because there's certainly no shortage of them. And when it goes over well and they like what you do, then you can kind of mix in your own thing, and they tend to have you back.
I've seen some video footage of you performing as Johnny Cash, and what slayed me, as much as the singing, is the acoustic guitar that you use as Johnny Cash. That's like actually the look of one of Johnny's guitars.
Yeah, it's a replica of the RCA one, the J200 he had. It's actually in the Johnny Cash Museum. If you go there, you can see the real one. The Gibson J200 with the black double-sided pick guard.
Yeah, like the Batwing pick guard,
Right.
and it's a sunburst. It's a very original guitar, and any guitar freaks go, wait, that's the Johnny Cash guitar.
Yeah, it even actually has his name and Mother of Pearl on the inlay on the neck.
Yikes.
It's pretty cool.
Nicely done, nicely done. So it's like you care. You want to.
Yeah, actually when I started out, I actually have a naturally red hair. And I used to have a buzz cut. When I actually started out doing Johnny Cash, I couldn't play a lick on the guitar. I had a red hair and a crew cut.
Looking exactly like Johnny Cash.
I had this terrible wig I wore. It just looked awful.
You could see the chin strap, that kind of thing.
Didn't have one of those, thankfully, but
Yeah.
it wasn't much better. And I remember I got a guitar and I used it as a prop and I just flopped around my hand. It looked ridiculous. And I look back in footage, I'm like, that needs to get better.
Yeah.
And so I picked up a guitar and actually started learning the thing.
God bless.
Yeah.
So now you and your family have an act. You guys play in a lot of places. You cover a lot of ground, don't you?
Yeah, I'm in a few different groups too. I mean, like I said, I got my own band, Johnny Lyons and the Pride. It's kind of, we're still getting off the ground. Then I'm in June's Got the Cash. It's a Johnny Cash, June Carter tribute band. And then I do stuff with my mom and my dad, where we have a show called Elvis Through the Years. It's kind of a theater show. It takes you through the history of Elvis's career. I go through about 10 different costume changes, which my dad does about 2. So I'm the through the years part.
Yeah.
But that's a lot of fun. My mom narrates it, and she'll do some duets, and she runs a slideshow behind. So that's a lot of fun.
And you told me earlier that the finale of the show is kind of cool and kind of an original idea that you guys came up with.
Yeah. So I mean, we'll do the traditional ending with "Can't Help Falling in Love," where we say "Adios" and "God bless," da 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 da, and then he'll invite me back out, and we actually do the young and the old, and when I harmonize with him, and we do a little duet. So it's kind of a finale. I mean, it's a little weird, we wouldn't want to do the whole show that way, having two of the same person out there, but it's a nice little finale, and people seem to
And the fact that you have that option, and on top of that, since you're a family, and they always say that families can harmonize better than just people off the street.
I hear that a lot.
So let me ask you this. This is a two-sided question. Playing music, either with any of your different organizations, what's the coolest place you've gone to, and also what's the place where you just went, okay, we got to get out of here?
Yeah, well, one of the coolest places, one was the Palmer House. Before I was really into the tribute world, I was a singer in a jazz, in my high school jazz band. So that was cool.
So you got some depth.
Yeah, I was a jazz drummer and the vocalist in my high school jazz band. But beyond that, once I started really getting into the industry, recently I was up doing a tour through Vancouver, and we played the Hard Rock Casino up in Vancouver, and it seated a few thousand, and it was sold out. And
Really?
they had a disco ball about the size of this general vicinity, and it was kind of crazy. And they were coming out there and doing "Hello, I'm Johnny Cash," and going, "Wow!" oh man, that's kind of cool.
I got to pay attention.
Can't screw up. Pay attention. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
And then besides that, well, there's always some awkward private parties where it's like, okay, all right. You get some passive audiences and such. But recently, it was a nice gig. I played up in Minot, North Dakota at a casino. And
just happened to be driving by Minot, North Dakota.
Just passing by, you know. But actually, I'm going to be back there in a couple weeks. They liked me, I guess. But
you know, that's what I like about you. You've got nothing but confidence. Nothing but confidence.
But yeah, when I got there, they kept interrupting after like 2 or 3 songs. They want to do announcements, and it lasted a long time. It wasn't like a quick like, hey, we're going to raffle this up. Okay, continue. It was like, all right, 10 minutes have gone by. I'm like sitting there. They've already blown my entrance and everything. You know, it's just kind of sitting on the sidelines like, all right, Elvis, do more.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay. I come back there and have to win them over every 5 minutes, and it was interesting. And they had an elaborate lighting and nice stage and monitors. We took a lot of time to develop the stage, and then I felt that the only way I could really engage the passive audience was if I left the stage and went off and sang right in front of them and danced around right in front of them, and then they loved it. But I felt kind of bad for the crew behind me with this elaborate setup. I was like,
Yeah, and off he goes. Let me ask you, there was. Oh, I knew what I wanted to ask you about. You have been involved in the Windy City Elvis ETA competition. I hate to admit that I didn't pay attention to where you came out in the competition, but tell me about that experience, because I have to admit I didn't even know that this was going on, and now it's like, I'd like to come and see this.
It's cool. Actually, there's going to be March 9th. They're doing it again. I intend to do it. But it was cool the first time I did it twice.
This takes place, this is an Elvis tribute artist competition. Where does it take place?
It takes place in St. Charles, Illinois at the Arcata Theater, the main stage.
Which is an amazing theater.
It's a great venue, yes. And the first time I did it was really cool. It was the first time I really got to see the whole community, Elvis community. You know, you get the audience is full of just fanatics, and they're great people. And then you know, all the other ETAs, as we call them, Elvis tribute artists.
That's the official term now.
You know, getting to really know them and see how big of a community it really is was cool. And they're all really super nice people. And the first time I was just kind of wetting my feet. And I made it to the finals, but I was just starting out. But then last year I did it again, and I ended up taking second place in fan favorite. And I actually beat out one of the ultimate winners. I don't want to name any names.
Sure.
But it felt good. It was like, all right, I must not suck. I got a lot of screams because it's a big theater too, and it tends to fill out.
Right.
Some nice footage and a nice band backing them. Change of Habit band. They know what they're doing.
Absolutely.
So that's really cool. Actually, oddly enough, tomorrow is for the winner of that competition, you get your own featured show at the Arcata on the main stage, and the winner was my buddy Radney Pennington out of Branson, Missouri, and that show is tomorrow.
Excellent.
How about that?
Now, even in the world of ETAs, there aren't a lot of guys who do the early Elvis exclusively.
Yes, it's true.
So now, does that put more pressure on you or less pressure? Because it's like, well, there's not as much competition to do that period of his career.
Yeah, it's definitely less because people get, my girlfriend included, she says, tell me about because at the competitions, it's the Vegas jumpsuit after the Vegas jumpsuit after another, and then they start doing the same songs too, and they don't restrict that. Oh. And it's just like, oh my gosh, how many times can you look at this? Yes, Elvis was a great performer, but we've heard this, we've seen this.
And especially if they go into Trilogy, which is like a 9-minute song.
Exactly. That one and How Great Thou Art, where they do the whole set. Sounds like it's over, and then he breaks in again. And sings my soul. All right, we're only halfway through, people. But so when you come out as a young person, and I'm not trying to sound conceited or anything, but the younger ones tend to have just a smidge more sex appeal for the general consensus. So when you walk out, they go, woo!
Yeah.
You know? I'm not necessarily saying me, just the younger, and they have
in general
have a little something else that's not there for the older folks. But it tends to go over well. And actually, if you look at the winners of that competition, it tends to be young. Oh, here's one guy that was a little older, but stands out.
Let me ask you one last thing, and then we've got a little special surprise for the folks in the audience here. How did you start writing your own songs? Because I'm always fascinated by that, because I do that myself, and is it like something where you sat down and said, by golly, I'm going to learn how to write songs, or was it just like you woke up and you started hearing something?
You know, oddly enough, it was actually, I was going to DeVry University, and there was a humanities class, and they had like art sections every week. You had to make an original piece of art. And I always wanted to write music, but I always thought I was pretty bad at it. And then I forced myself to write a song for a project, a school project. I was like, this is kind of cool. It had a real rockabilly feel. And then I got dumped. And then, cliche as it is, but it brought the lyrics to me, and I started writing, and I got better at it as I went on, and I have a lot of fun with it. And actually, I started out, I had most of my recordings today I have this digital 8-track recording where I'll play all the instruments and all the harmonies and the backup vocals. It's all me singing. I do piano, I do harmonica, guitar, bass, drums, backup vocals, and
like
and
I
so
was
on.
saying to you earlier, it's obvious that you're not just an entertainer, you're a musician first.
Yes,
and then the entertainment comes after. But
Yeah.
so you work with an 8-track and you're able to.
Yeah, overlay and kind of do it all myself. And then on top of it, I mean, the Elvis thing really helped with kind of stage presence. You get to take from the greats and see how they entertain the audience. Once you know all the musical side of it, being the tribute artist, I feel helped a lot with that. With being like moving around and just kind of, putting on a show.
Well, speaking of putting on a show, oddly enough, we have a guitar here. If you'd care to give him a little.
All right. Well, I will spend my whole life through loving you, just loving you. Winter, summer, springtime too. Loving you, just loving you. It makes no difference where I go, what I do. You know that I'll always be loving you, just you. And if I'm seen with someone new, don't be blue, now don't you be blue. I'll be faithful, I'll be true, always true to you. And there's only one for me, and you will not, you know that I'll always be loving you.
Jonathan Lyons, everybody.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks for having me.
Well done.
It's been a pleasure.
You are watching the Chicago Vintage Show. We want to throw it right back to our DJ, Petey. Bust it off, brother. Bust it off.